room fell silent when the lawyer closed the folder. For a moment, everyone thought the inheritance meeting was over. Then he looked up and said, "There is one final letter from your father. He instructed me to read it only after the estate was divided." Suddenly, no one moved. Not because they missed their father, because they feared what he might say. Before we continue, if you enjoy emotional family stories, life lessons, and powerful twists like this one, make sure to subscribe to Echoed Mind Stories and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. Now, let's find out what happened when the lawyer opened that final letter. The Thompson family had gathered inside a luxurious conference room overlooking the city. Their father, Robert Thompson, had passed away 2 weeks earlier at the age of 78. He had built a business empire from nothing. Now his fortune was worth nearly $200 million. His 3 children sat around the table. Michael, the oldest son, was checking messages on his phone. Sandra sat with her arms crossed, and the youngest Daniel stared quietly at the table. The tension in the room felt heavy. Not one of them had shed a tear during the meeting. Instead, they spent hours arguing over properties, investments, and company shares. The lawyer cleared his throat. "Before I read the letter, I want everyone to understand that these are your father's exact words." Michael leaned back. "Let's get on with it." The lawyer unfolded the paper. His voice became softer. "To my children." The room grew still. "If you are hearing this, I am gone." Sandra looked away. Daniel swallowed hard. The lawyer continued. "I know today's meeting has probably focused on money. I expected that. The 3 of you have spent years fighting over things that never mattered." Michael rolled his eyes. Sandra sighed loudly. But Daniel listened carefully. "Before you celebrate what you received, there is something I need you to know." The lawyer paused. Even he seemed emotional. "When your mother was dying, she asked me for one thing. She wanted our family to stay together. I promised her I would try." Sandra lowered her head. Their mother had died 10 years earlier. She had been the heart of the family. After her death, everything changed. Arguments became normal. Family dinners disappeared. Birthdays became obligations. The lawyer continued reading. "I failed your mother." The words landed like stones. "I watched greed replace love." No one spoke. Michael stared at the floor. "I watched my children compete against each other instead of supporting each other." Sandra's eyes began to fill with tears. The lawyer continued. "And worst of all, I stayed silent." For the first time, guilt appeared on their faces. But then came the sentence that changed everything. "There is one more heir." The room exploded. "What?" Michael shouted. Sandra sat upright. Daniel looked confused. The lawyer raised his hand. "Please let me finish." The room fell silent again. The lawyer continued. 27 years ago, before I became wealthy, I made a mistake that haunted me for the rest of my life." Everyone stared. "I had a daughter." Sandra's mouth fell open. Michael jumped to his feet. "That's impossible." The lawyer ignored him and continued. "Her name is Emily." Daniel looked stunned. None of them had ever heard that name before. "I was young and afraid. I walked away from her mother when Emily was only a baby." The room felt smaller. No one could believe what they were hearing. "For years I searched for her. When I finally found her, she wanted nothing from me." Michael shook his head. "No." But the lawyer continued. "She refused my money." Sandra whispered. "Why would she do that?" The answer came immediately. "Because she said money could never replace the years she lost." Silence. The lawyer's voice trembled. She was right. Daniel wiped his eyes. For the first time, the inheritance no longer seemed important. The lawyer turned the page. "I spent the last 8 years getting to know Emily." The room froze. 8 years. Their father had known this woman for 8 years and never told them. "She visited me every week." Michael looked shocked. "She called every Sunday." Sandra's tears rolled down her cheeks. "She sat beside me during hospital visits." Daniel looked down. The lawyer paused again. Then he read the line that hit hardest. "She was there when none of you were." No one could respond, because it was true. Robert had spent many birthdays alone, many holidays alone, many hospital appointments alone. His children always had excuses: work, travel, meetings, important plans. Yet somehow there was always time to discuss money. The lawyer continued. "I do not blame you entirely." The room remained silent. "I know I wasn't a perfect father." For the first time, compassion entered the letter. "I spent too much time building a business and not enough time building a family." Michael wiped his eyes. Sandra quietly sobbed. Daniel stared into space. Then came another surprise. "I am not changing the inheritance." Everyone looked confused. The lawyer explained. "The estate has already been divided exactly as outlined in the will." Michael frowned. "Then why reveal this now?" The answer arrived moments later. "I am not giving Emily money." The room became silent again. Instead, the lawyer continued reading. "I am giving her something more valuable." The lawyer opened another folder. Inside was a deed, a simple piece of paper. "Emily receives ownership of my childhood home." Michael laughed bitterly. That's all? But the lawyer wasn't finished. The house wasn't valuable. It sat on a small piece of land outside town. Old, worn down, almost forgotten. The lawyer smiled sadly. Then he read the final sentence. Because that house contains the only thing my children never wanted. Nobody understood until the lawyer placed several photographs on the table. Old family photos, hundreds of them. Pictures nobody had seen in decades. Robert and their mother dancing, family picnics, Christmas mornings, handwritten letters, memories, years of memories. Sandra began crying uncontrollably. Daniel picked up one photograph. He was 7 years old, sitting on his father's shoulders, both of them laughing. He couldn't remember the last time he had thought about that moment. The lawyer spoke softly. Your father stored every memory in that house. Nobody said a word. Then came the biggest surprise. The lawyer handed Daniel a small envelope. Your father wanted you to have this personally. Daniel opened it carefully. Inside was a note. Just one sentence. His voice cracked as he read it aloud. Thank you for visiting me last Christmas. The room froze. Daniel looked confused. Then he remembered. Last Christmas he had stopped by unexpectedly. Only for 20 minutes, nothing special. Or so he thought. The note continued. It was the happiest day I had in years. Daniel broke down, because he realized how lonely his father had truly been. The room sat in silence. Minutes passed. Nobody cared about the money anymore. For the first time, they saw the truth. Their father had not been measuring success through wealth. He had been measuring it through love, and they had failed him. A week later, something unexpected happened. Michael called Sandra. Sandra called Daniel. Then together, they contacted Emily, the daughter they never knew existed. At first, she refused to meet them. She had every reason to. But eventually she agreed. They met at the old house, the one their father loved. Emily arrived carrying a box. Inside were photographs from the final years of Robert's life. Pictures of him smiling, laughing, gardening, living. For hours they shared stories. Stories none of them had heard before. By sunset, strangers had become family. Not because of blood, because of forgiveness. Months later, the four siblings restored the old house together. They turned it into a family gathering place. Every holiday, every birthday, every special occasion, they met there, and above the fireplace hung a framed copy of Robert's final letter. A reminder that money can build a fortune, but only love can build a family. And in the end, the greatest inheritance Robert Thompson left behind was never his wealth. It was the second chance he gave his children to become a family again. What would you have done if you were in Michael's place? Would you have fought for the money or fought to save the family? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to Echoed Mind Stories for more powerful stories that stay with you long after they end.